Welcome to What's Up with Bowling Green Winlectric. We're your go-to podcast for lighting tips, interior design insights, and expert advice on all things home, electrical, and design. Join us as we chat with local guests, electricians, and designers as we dive into the world of DIY tips, building ideas, and indoor-outdoor home solutions to help you create the perfect ambiance indoors and out.
Hey guys, Sean with Winlectric. What's up with Winlectric? This episode, we're joined by Tori. Tell me your last name again.
Henninger.
Dang it. I knew. Listen, I did so well on the promo. Anyway, see, now you're getting to see what it's like when I mess up on the promo, except this isn't the promo, Tori, so.
My favorite part of every podcast is the humanness that comes through the microphones.
I'm very human. Mm-hmm. So, Tori, again, she is with Brass, which, as you may or may not know, is Barren River Area Safe Space.
Yes.
So, before we kind of get into the brass tacks of Brass and what you guys do, can you tell?
What's up, Winlectric? But it's WATTNN.
Yes, it is. So, anyway, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what led you to working with Brass?
Sure. So I have a firm belief that people are either built for-profit or for nonprofit work. When I was in college, I got a degree in communication because, well, I really like to talk. And I decided that I needed to figure out how to make that a career. And so when exploring all the options, I realized that my heart really was in trying to build up opportunities for people so that they can also have better opportunities in the future. And so my first love was working for the WKU Alumni Association, where I did a lot of student programming. And that's when I figured out that I'm built for nonprofit work. I love for-profits give us money. But I realized that it takes both sides in a community.
Right.
It takes the people who have that drive to make money, and it takes that drive for people to want to impact their communities in a different way. And I think both of those are really incredibly important. And so when the opportunity came about, I'd worked for the Alumni Association for almost 10 years when I saw the opportunity for Brass. And I knew that I wanted to work for a nonprofit. I knew that this was an opportunity for me to use my big voice and to get to have a chance in being able to make a difference for people and hear their stories and use my broad shoulders to carry the weights and heaviness that other people have felt, relieve them long enough for them to feel safe and secure and heal. And so, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've been here for almost 11 years now, which no one is more shocked than I am that I made it that long. We could have an entire podcast just about the weight of heaviness for nonprofit directors, but most of them only last 2 years.
Jeez, really? That's the average?
Yeah, the average. And it's weird in our region because we have a lot of long-standing nonprofit directors. And so I think that for me, I got the opportunity to see how people can balance the heaviness of work and the incredible feeling of getting to do something good in the world.
Right.
And do it for a really long time. So I've got some really wonderful mentors who have been able to, they've been doing their work for 20 plus years. And I'm just like, I'm a young gun at just 11 until I say that. And then I realize that it makes me sound super old.
Yeah, well, I don't know how in the world you feel super old. I'm old.
I am of the age, though, that I have friends who are having babies, having children of all ages or grandkids. Right. So, I'm in a very interesting time.
Yeah. So, okay, with everything that you mentioned about what led you to Brass, now can you tell us a little bit more about Brass, what the mission is, what you guys do as an organization even on a day-to-day basis, and kind of the outcomes you see with people who come through I know that's kind of a long question, but
no. Well, it would be a really awkward podcast for me to say, no, I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah.
And then that's okay. Hi. Yeah, no. Okay. So Brass is the regional domestic violence service provider that is available to all survivors of intimate partner violence. We have lots of different programs, but most people know us for our 24/7 emergency shelter
Yes.
and our 24/7 crisis lines. As much as I would love it and would probably have less gray hair and less chaos in my life if domestic violence kept business hours like other work, the reality is that some of our busiest call times are from like 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Right.
And so we are 24/7, 365. We're not allowed to close. You know, people have like that whole COVID response, and I was like, yeah, we had COVID responses too, but we never stopped. We weren't legally allowed to.
Right.
Turns out we're a, what are they called? An essential operation.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I mean,
And
yeah,
so-
because I can't. Well, sorry. There's so many things that just pop in my head with what you were saying before, and I know I'm interrupting the entire answer to the question I just asked, but I can't get past. I love to do things for people. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast and make so much of it about the local area and not about what we do at Winlectric, but it's what I like to do is I feel like on such a small level, which is what you guys do is on such a big level. I can't imagine being able to do that day in and day out, all these different hours of the day and night. And so anyway, sorry, I just got sidetracked thinking about that and I couldn't get it out of my head that I can't imagine. Literally, I feel like you have to devote your life to that. And then how that affects everything in your life and your family and all that stuff. And wow. I don't normally take big sidetracks like that. So
You know, it's me. I like to go all the different ways. No, I think that that's a really astute observation, and why I go back to for-profit versus nonprofit kind of identifiers and belief sets. A lot of people talk about like this work-life balance idea. It's like, oh, you have your work time and you have your lifetime. A lot of nonprofits really focus on work-life integration. So sometimes it is at 9 p.m. when there's something going on at the shelter, they call me and I say, let me finish putting my kid to bed and I'm going to call you back. Sometimes, like, I have taken phone calls for work while cheering on my children at all of their elected sports, and they're in all of the sports. And so sometimes it's realizing that everyone's life is going to keep going, and how do we navigate that all together?
And not only thinking about that you're taking those calls, right? Someone's making those calls. So the staff you guys have must be just amazing and so selfless. I don't know, man. I get calls from family. Hey, can you help me do this stuff? Yeah, well, let's schedule it. Right? So we'll schedule it next week or the following week or 2 months ahead or whatever, you know, and I'm constantly helping people, but it's not like I'm taking, I can't, it's something that I feel like is just so immeasurable in my mind to think that you guys are out there doing. And in my opinion, you don't get credit for that. Not that you're looking for credit, right? But I don't know. I'm literally kind of giving myself goosebumps thinking about that because I know it sounds weird, but you know, I'm an emotional person, so like I get my feels sometimes about it sometimes. But that's one of the reasons why we've wanted to partner with you guys, you know, because it is such a special thing that you do. I guess let's get back to what I'd asked before.
So I think that the other part that people don't realize is that after a person makes the immeasurably hard phone call that you talk about, I mean, we have to recognize that advocates are often navigating situations with the person in crisis, which means that we have to look at the whole picture and not any individual piece of it, which is why it's so important for everyone who calls our crisis line to be honest and to be fully transparent about what has impacted them and why they're calling us, because there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of guilt in survivors of, well, I should have left sooner, or why did I stay? There's a lot of self-blame, and it's like the reason that intimate partner violence is a thing is because there are people who choose to abuse. And you can't take ownership of another person's actions. And that's the first step, is recognizing that what impacted you was because someone else chose to do that. And now you are choosing to say, I want to be different. I want to accept a different path forward. And that's why people call us. I think a lot of people feel the heaviness of the work that we do, but the reality is that our work in total, no matter what department I'm talking about, no matter what service I'm talking about, no matter how many people we serve, is all built in hope.
Right.
And people aren't reaching out to us because they've lost hope. People are reaching out to us because they found hope. They realize that there's an opportunity for a difference and for a change. And so being able to offer that, like, that is the root of everything that we do. Every tagline that we have, every service that we provide is an individual who is asking for help to feed their hope.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. That's so crazy. I kind of mentioned you guys to people before and say, brass, and they're like, what's that? And I'll say, well, it's, domestic violence survivors, but you're calling it now intimate
Partner violence. So
because
it's a wide range.
Right.
When domestic violence is a bigger idea of a lot of familial violence, but I think that it's somewhat become an archaic term only because of how we have expanded what abuse looks like.
What family looks like,
what
too,
family looks like, what people want to know that they're going to receive non-judgmental access to information. So often survivors are not reaching out because they think, well, they're going to judge me for what was done to me or what I didn't do in response. And it's like, you are the expert in your survival to this point, but I don't want people to survive. I want people to thrive. Right. And so access to our services isn't about saving people. It's about helping people decide how to receive information that is going to make them feel capable, competent, self-sufficient.
Yeah. So I think I've mentioned to you before when we've talked different times that, your organization kind of holds a special place in my heart because one of my daughter's best friends growing up ended up spending some time with you guys. And I feel like, in saying that that talking about my daughter's best friend, when I talk to people about brass and how I saw that happen with her and how she came out on the other side of that, I literally tell people brass gave her life back. Didn't change her as far as who she was before and after. I'm sure she saw some change, but I'm just saying, you guys didn't. It doesn't seem like you are trying to change someone. You're trying to give them themselves back. If that's not the correct way to say it, I'm sure.
No, I think that's a really appropriate way of saying that. One of the things that we often talk about with abuse, because what abuse looks like is so individualized. And that's why it's so hard sometimes to identify what is an abusive relationship, because what might feel abusive to one person isn't abusive to another. And it's very individualized. It's very specific. It's very targeted to the people involved. And so one of the things that we have to realize and recognize is that a person says, I don't like how this makes me feel. And it's like, okay, then that is in fact a problem. Let's navigate that. Let's talk about what that looks like. Let's talk about what that means. And let's go from there. Let's take the steps forward from there. We are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We make mistakes easily every day, multiple times a day. It's the best part of
human.
Part of us is humanity. I tell my staff all the time, I have lots of different personalities and lots of different types of people on my staff because we have a lot of different types of survivors.
Right.
Some people really appreciate the tough love. Some people need hand-holding and softness. Some people need the shock value of escaping, and some people want the time and intention to plan and plot to get out. And so it's all about, abuse is about taking away a person's ability to have power and control in their life. Abuse is rooted in power and control. And so one of the ideals, our jobs in the true reality of it, is to allow a person the opportunity to regain power and control in their life and make those decisions. So it's not about changing a person. It's not about saving a person. It's about saying, what do you want to do? And allowing them to be able to be supported in that process. Sometimes they make really great decisions that help move forward. Sometimes people make really bad decisions. But guess what?
Sure.
I bet you make bad decisions.
My wife would agree with that every day.
And
you said something earlier about being, making mistakes every day. Yeah, every day I make mistakes. 25 years I've been married.
I know.
That's a lot of years to make
It's
mistakes.
a lot of opportunities for growth, too.
Yep, and therein lies
where
what
we
you
are.
guys offer.
Therein lies what we do.
So I'm sure that, like what you were talking about, people are different. They're more accepting. I'd be more accepting of some direction than you would be, and so I'm sure you guys, with your programs that you offer and the ways that you will kind of quote teach people to manage things, I'm sure it's catered toward every individual. So.
Yeah, it is. I think going back to something you had touched on of like you plan, we don't. Every single staff member I have has a really beautiful notebook or pad of paper that we write down our to-do lists of what we're going to accomplish in the day.
Yes.
And then we immediately just rip those pages out, ball them up, and throw them in the trash.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because
yeah.
our jobs are responsive. And when, we have to dedicate the majority of our responses to our crisis line and court advocacy, where we're meeting people on one of the worst days of their life, where they have to publicly acknowledge all of the private and secret things that occurred to them. Yeah. And it's like, we just sometimes need to be that person's champion of saying, this is hard, but you're harder. This is tough, but you're tougher. And it allows us to be able to be the support person in a room. And don't get me wrong, we have some wonderful judges and some wonderful bailiffs, but they're there to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be there for everyone. Bailiffs' jobs are to make sure everyone in the courtroom is protected and safe. A judge's job is to be there to decide and understand all the facts of a case and make the determination of how they, I think that the thing that we have to always recognize and understand is that we get to support survivors making right and wrong decisions, good and bad choices. And everyone has a person like that in their life. Most people can reach out to their parents or to their best friends. And sometimes survivors don't have that, or sometimes they don't trust who to trust in their life.
Well, I'm sure there's times that because of the abuse they've went through that they've distanced themselves from those people who would have been those people. The people who would have been those people.
Yeah, the people who would have been there for them
right.
Are no longer there because there was a distance created and isolation. Isolation is actually one of the major types of abuse that we discuss, where a person becomes so reliant on their abusive partner that they don't feel like they have anyone else to reach out to, which is why it's very important for us to have these opportunities to talk about, no, we'll help everyone. We will try and navigate, and we might not always do or be able to help the way that people want us to help. But we will always try to give at least one piece of information that can help a person make a different decision in the future.
But the biggest thing is that you're there.
Yeah.
And that you offer services. And what people want is not always what's best for them.
I think the better way of saying that is what people want and what people need are sometimes in opposition.
Sure.
And
okay.
Because people, again, what we want to do is not judge what a person's decisions are. We want to be able to support them in making choices.
I was almost saying it like you were a drug rehab facility or something. Wow, that's even more enlightening to me, is that you're not taking away choices.
No, we're trying to give them back.
Wow, geez, Tori. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking.
Yeah, and I
don't mean it that way.
No.
Yeah,
and I think that's such an important factor to note right now, is how often well-intentioned people create a distance with a survivor, because it's like, well, you have other options, and a person's like, well, I don't feel that.
Right, sure.
And it's like, instead of just saying, well, just make a different choice, it's like, okay, let's talk about what our options are.
Right.
Let's talk about what that looks like. We constantly work with survivors who might call our crisis line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus times, planning and plotting, because a lot of times people are like, well, why don't they just leave? And that's very victim blaming. That's putting a pressure on a person that doesn't need to be there. Because the real question is, well, why do people abuse? But that's a story for another day, another podcast. But every day we get the opportunity to be there for a person and help them navigate what options they might have available that they may not be thinking about, they may not think are available to them, that they can't consider, and then they get the time to think about it. Right. That's the best part of our crisis line, is that it is controlled by a survivor. They decide when to call us. They decide how long to stay on the phone with us. They decide what information they want to give us. We can give a lot of information out about opportunities, thoughts, processes without having detailed information. Because again, that guilt and shame that people sometimes lead with is like, well, you can't know who I am because I'm an important figure in my community. You can't know who I am because my perpetrator is an important figure in my community. Wow. And you might not believe me if you know who I'm talking about. And it's like, well, that's the thing, is that we do believe you. It's one of my favorite things that we did, and I'm actually wearing the shirt. I did that on purpose.
What?
Is belief, support, and power. And those are the 3 tenets of everything that we do. But it also works out to be the path that we try to work with every survivor. The very first thing that we always do is believe a person. We always want to say, I believe you. Whatever you're saying is hard, I believe you. Whatever you're saying is true, I believe you. Whatever you are saying is difficult, is unmanageable, is impossible, okay, I believe you. But the next step and the next piece is to empower a person to make different choices and say, all right, I believe you, and now I'm going to empower you to realize that you're stuck in a box and get out of that box. And then I'm going to support you. You say, I'm going right, and we say, right's probably the wrong direction. You should go left. And they say, no, I'm still going right. And it's like, okay, I support you. I'm here for you. Because every adult gets to make mistakes. Every person gets to make their own choices and live with those consequences. Right. But having a person to be able to say, all right, well, we just learned a way not to do something, didn't we?
Right. Well, on top of that, sometimes, I know as a parent, as much as I hate to say it, my kids have said, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, don't do that. And then, they turn out they were right. And that is great.
It's wonderful when your kids are better than you.
Listen, true story. I mean, I'm not going to go into actual true stories because, then that would just make it even more real. But no, it is hard sometimes when you're, even if it's, not a parent and child relationship, or sometimes it's even hard when it's a friendship relationship. Yeah. You think someone that's close to you is making a bad decision. You're like, no, don't do that, and then they do. It's like, sometimes they're right, too,
It's like you planned this out, because that's also a really great point. That's the reason why advocacy is so important. It's one of the tenets that we talk about, is when you are trying to navigate your options with a friend, with a family member, with a loved one, with a coworker, that person has a vested interest in what your decision is, because it could also impact them. Your friends get tired of watching you in the back and forth of your relationship, and they're like, you know what, I'm throwing my hands up, I'm done. Advocate's job is not to be a person's friend. Advocate's job is to be an advocate for them.
Right.
We don't have control of the outcomes. We are not responsible for the outcomes. We are responsible for giving access to information, access to resources, access to the referrals that we have for you to do with them what you want. Lord, you being the proverbial survivor.
But how do you not get emotionally invested? I get it's a job and you're just...
You are emotionally invested, but advocacy is built in saying, I am not going to push my agenda on you. Right. And so often the loved ones, again, well-meaning, I want this for you. You need to want this as much as I want it for you. And it's like, yes, we have those issues every single day, but it allows us the opportunity to remind ourselves that it is not our decision.
That's hard sometimes.
Oh my gosh, for someone who is incredibly opinionated, not being able to give my opinion most of the time is difficult, but...
Right. Well, I really wish we could keep talking, but we're going to have to wrap this up a little bit. I would like to ask one hopefully quick question is, what can people do to help with your organization? I know you guys take donations, whether it be, product or monetary donations. Is there other things that people can do to help?
All of those things are true. We love, we're a major household. So imagine your personal household and then multiply that by 17, because that's normally how many families we have in shelter.
17 families, wow.
Normally somewhere between 35 and 40 people in shelter every single night. On top of that, we have about 60 families in all of our housing programs that we help support.
Yes.
So when you think about what your daily household needs are, those are pretty standard. We can always use those.
Right.
Cleaning wipes, diapers, canned food.
Not green beans.
Golly, we get so many green beans. People think green beans are the staple food, and they're great. I love a good green bean. But, there's corn, there's beans.
Yeah, non-perishables.
There are proteins out there that are canned that we can get. But the best thing, yes, every nonprofit will say, give me your money, please. Because we can spend it as effectively or more effectively than sometimes giving us the product.
Of course.
But the number one thing that our community can do every single time is to know our crisis line number and know that we are available 24/7, 365. It removes those barriers of, well, I don't know what to do. And it's like, oh, call these people. They know what to do.
Right.
We're available 24/7, 365. We're always there.
24/7, 365. Your website, if somebody wanted to just kind of read a little bit about your organization?
It's very important to be very specific in this. It's BRASSINC.org. Brassinc.org.
I'm sure people could find it really easily on the Google machine.
Yes. If you Googled us, brass, be very careful because sometimes you get like the metalworking.
Sure.
But don't go down those paths. I don't know anything about
It's got to be so easy to get you on the Google machine, like I said. Well, Tori, really appreciate you sitting in with us today. A lot of good information. Yeah. Sorry we had some calls come in that we just couldn't answer.
You were just afraid of what I was going to say, weren't you?
Of course.
I know it.
Of course. So, guys, I hope you were able to get a little bit of information today. And if you or someone you know needs some of the help that Brass offers, please reach out to them, guys. We, as a community, as a whole, we know that mental health and the abusive situations, things like that, Brass can help you through those situations. So please give them a call. And as always, thanks for listening.
Create the perfect ambiance, indoors and out.